Hey there friends and enemies, JoPa here again, and I previously made a video on role queue in Marvel Rivals and how I don't believe it belongs in the game. But today, I want to talk about winning competitive games as a solo Vanguard or solo Strategist. The latter of that is much more difficult. There's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders, but if you pick the right character and you play a certain way, it's definitely possible. As a solo strategist, I definitely think that you should stick to someone like Luna Snow for a couple different reasons. One, if you put her barrier on a second character, she can heal 2 at one time, which obviously is massively important, especially if you have a team who is off flanking. You can heal the tank that's in front of you and then heal that other character at the same time. The downside to having one strategist is you are somewhat reliant on your teammates who are playing DPS, either able to find heal packs themselves or use their kits to heal while they are getting in and out of combat. That's not always easy to do. Sometimes you can run it on a team that is just a pure tank-based team. So for example, we have a Doctor Strange and a Magneto up front. Behind him we have a Hawkeye and we have a Hela, and we are just pinging them from range trying to get picks, and I'm just back healing everybody unless the team is diving us consistently, and even then you can freeze them with Luna Snow. Then you should be able to control that area somewhat comfortably. So again, a lot of that depends upon team composition, but it can be very difficult. The counter to that is solo Vanguard, I feel like, is much easier than people think. In the gameplay you're watching me play as Penny Parker, we are facing a team that had a traditional 2-2-2 setup, which is 2 Vanguard, 2 Duelists, and 2 Strategists, and we rolled them. Now, a lot of this will come down to skill, but some of it will come down to the way you play the game. And so, because I saw that we only had the one tank, I had 2 options. I can either go with a shield tank like Doctor Strange and soak up damage, but judging by my teammates and who they were playing, that wasn't going to be the most effective way to play because they were going to be aggressive and I'm simply holding, so I'm not putting additional pressure on the enemy team. Whereas if I was playing Penny Parker, like I was in this case, I ended up getting MVP because I was being hyper aggressive, allowing my 2 healers who were focused on me to keep me alive and essentially trap any of their dive characters who got in too close with my webs. And so because of that, I was able to get consistent picks throughout the game, and once I did that, then my duelists were able to jump in, get some extra kills, and then proceed from there. And this is one of those situations where having a third good duelist is better than having a second okay to bad tank. And that's where I think people need to understand that just begging your teammates to switch isn't always going to work out for the best. You don't want players just taking up a spot because that's the role that you need filled. You'd rather have them in a character and with a team comp that they are comfortable with. And so when you are looking, I always pick my character when I'm playing ranked, either last, second to last, or towards the end, depending on how I see everyone else lining up. And the reason for that is that I can look at the team, the way they want to play. Are they very aggressive? Are they a little bit more reserved? Do they have more long-range fighters? And I can change my play style based off that. This is where, once again, I'll reiterate the fact that when you are looking at tier lists, they can somewhat be irrelevant and overused. And why that is because Hawkeye can be very good. But if you can't hit your shots, if you're not getting any headshots ever, he's not going to be very good. Whereas if you're playing Namor and you are holding up the enemy team with your turrets and your abilities, now all of a sudden you are contributing significantly more to the team. I think Hawkeye is the better character, but for certain players, Namor will be the better selection. Same thing with team comps. Maybe we are running a brawl team, right? You won't see that much at the higher levels, but at lower levels, you can steamroll other teams. But if everybody else is playing a dive type comp, a brawl comp that are getting up close and personal, and you're standing in the back, but every time the fight happens, you're getting jumped by an Iron Fist. You need to be able to counter that Iron Fist or get in with your team and keep their bodies around you as often as possible. So you either go with Luna Snow or Mantis in order to stun them, or you are able to jump in with your team and try to play a lot closer with maybe your Rocket and his dashes or something of that nature. A Cloak and Dagger works really well for that because you have that escape. You also have the ability to contribute damage as well. As far as Vanguard though, again, the team composition matters a lot, and so being flexible, being able to slide in where your team needs them and fitting in with the playstyle is very important. Now, that's not always going to be the case. There are going to be times where your team is all over the place. You have Spider-Man and you have a Punisher, which can work well, but then you have a Hulk who is jumping into the enemy lines and jumping away from his Spider-Man. They're not teaming up together. There's just a lot of problems that can potentially arise if you have characters who aren't working together. And so that's where I think the best advice I would have for trying to climb up out of the lower ranks in Marvel Rivals is play off your teammates as much as possible. You cannot predict how good they are going to be or what they're going to do ultimately, but you can somewhat judge their playstyle by their first selection of character. And so if they are very, very aggressive, then you might want to try to be a bit more aggressive with them. And then if they are a little bit more reserved, if they're trying to get picks, then you could try to play a little bit more reserved as well. The one thing I get more frustrated by than anything is if something is not working, it's perfectly okay to switch. Doesn't mean you have to change up which class you're running. You don't have to change from a Vanguard to a Duelist necessarily, but sometimes just changing the character. If you are 1 in 7 on a Hawkeye, maybe go with a character who's going to be a little bit easier for you against whatever team you're playing into. And so that's just something that I've watched this happen far too often in this game, where people don't want to play around what their team is doing. They want to play the game like it's an individual game, and it's simply not. The team ups, the abilities that synergize together, the healing off each other, the tanking, all of that really matters. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I am not a player who's a Grandmaster level type of skill player, so when I speak to you guys about these topics, I'm coming from a average above average type of gamer, and I think that's very important because the gameplay is much different at silver and the low gold than it does all the way up into Grandmaster and that kind of thing. So definitely keep that in mind, and don't try to go based off of what you see the highest skill players in the game doing, because that's not going to be everybody. This type of content is more so for people trying to climb the gold in the first place to get that Moon Knight skin, and then you can progress on from there. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Comment down below, like the video as always. My name is JoPa. Have a good one. I'll catch you all later.